Number 6. Nail File. On March 11th, 2023, 13-year-old Louisa Halberstadt and 12-year-old Anna-Marie Hoffman killed their friend 12-year-old Louisa Frisch after stabbing her over 30 times with a nail file. This unimaginable violence occurred in Freudenberg, Germany, a sleepy town with just 18,000 residents. The victim and her killers were classmates. When Halberstadt and Hoffman invited her over for a playdate, her parents did not see any cause for concern. On March 12th, the victim's body was found at the foot of a hill in a nearby forest. Police initially thought that a perpetrator had kidnapped her, but when they canvassed the area, a neighbor said she saw two girls taking her into the woods the previous day. As their victim's body was being discovered, the killers were reportedly putting up dance videos on TikTok, revealing their compromised sense of morality. Police soon arrested the culprits, and even though they immediately confessed to their crimes, they did not provide a motive. Some have theorized that the culprits were jealous about the attention Frisch was receiving from a boy, but their lack of guilt after the killing suggests that it was an act of thrill-seeking violence. What's more, Hoffman had allegedly tried to research criminal liability before the incident, which indicates the attack was premeditated. Apart from the 32 stabs, the killers also tried to suffocate Frisch with a plastic bag. Additionally, one of the assailants told the other to hit the victim with a rock, threatening her by saying she would die next if she did not comply. Based on Hoffman's search history, it's possible that she was the one calling the shots, although there's no way to confirm this. Under German law, children under 14 cannot be prosecuted, even for violent crimes. However, the judge presiding, Torsten Schleif, stated that they would likely spend a long stint in a psychiatric facility. They were also never able to return to Freudenberg again, and the judge rejected their request for a new identity. Number 5. The Live Stream. At 6:15 p.m. on July 5th, 2022, 18-year-old Princess Omobogi was shot to death by her 16-year-old friend in Dallas, Texas during a live stream. The two friends were enjoying their time by using TikTok together, but the evening took a dark turn when the soon-to-be killer pulled out two guns while the victim recorded her. No one knows how they obtained the weapons, but at some point during the live stream, one of the guns went off. The ricochet of the bullet struck Omobogi, leaving her on the brink of death. The sound alerted neighbors, who immediately called the police. When the authorities arrived, they noticed a bullet hole through a window and rushed to the apartment to see what happened. Once they entered, they found Omobogi on the ground with blood spurting out of her. She was taken to a hospital where she stayed in critical care for 2 days before passing away on July 7th. She had recently graduated from South Garland High School, but her bright future was stolen by this tragedy. The culprit, whose name has been withheld from the public, was arrested and held at the Dallas County Juvenile Detention Center. Police have charged her with manslaughter, and though the details of her sentence have been kept under wraps, the maximum penalty for a minor is 2 years in jail. Number 4. Double Death. At approximately 9 p.m. on October 5th, 2013, 16-year-old Preston Ma slammed his car into a tree, instantly killing his friends Mackenzie Mott and Josie Freyer, both of whom were only 15 years old at the time. Both the killer and his victims attended University High School in Spokane Valley, Washington, and they were reportedly driving home from a birthday party when the incident occurred. Preston, who had only received his driver's license the previous day, was driving at twice the speed limit, and he soon lost control of his vehicle. The hurtling car collided into a tree with such force that it looked like a crushed soda can, and it's a miracle that Preston survived. His passengers were not so lucky though, and their parents wanted the reckless driver to receive the harshest sentence possible. Preston pleaded guilty to vehicular manslaughter, yet the judge was bafflingly lenient with him. On September 25, 2014, the judge sentenced him to 60 days in juvenile detention and 300 hours of community service, citing Preston's exceptional academic record as a major factor. The sentence was heavily criticized by the parents of the victims, and in August 2015, they filed a lawsuit against the perpetrator and his family, the results of which are currently unknown. Do you think the judge went too easy on Preston? Let us know in the comments and hit subscribe while you're at it. Number 3. A lethal curiosity. On October 21, 2009, 15-year-old Alyssa Bustamante, a resident of the mostly rural St. Martins, Missouri, lured her 9-year-old neighbor Elizabeth Alton into the woods, where she brutally took her life. The killer had a troubled childhood, with her mother's substance abuse problems leaving her with severe trauma. On top of that, her father spent most of her childhood in prison. Though she was raised by her grandparents, Alyssa could not get over the trauma, and she even tried to take her own life in 2007. On the day of the incident, the killer used her half-sister to tell Elizabeth to come to the forest to play. She had visited the same forest 5 days prior, when she had dug a shallow hole intended to serve as her victim's final resting place. She had been planning her vicious attack the whole time, and Elizabeth had no idea what was about to happen to her. As soon as the victim arrived, Alyssa attacked her with a knife, stabbing her 8 times in the chest, while simultaneously choking her. She finally ended the brutality by dragging her knife across the victim's throat, before dragging her to the makeshift grave, tossing her corpse in and covering it with dried leaves. Right after the killing, the culprit went straight home and wrote in her journal about how amazing it felt. She mentioned feeling reluctant at first, but went on to say that once she got past that, the act of taking a life was extremely satisfying to her. A devout Christian, Alyssa then headed to church to attend a dance, as if she had not just committed perhaps the greatest sin of all. All the while, police were searching for Elizabeth, since the victim had been missing for quite some time. After discovering her ravaged corpse, it did not take long for them to put the pieces together. The killer's confession in her journal made it an open and shut case, and on November 17, 2009, she was indicted on charges of first-degree homicide and armed criminal action. She initially pleaded not guilty, but in January 2012, she entered a guilty plea when the charge was reduced to second-degree homicide. When she was asked why she did it, Alyssa said that she just wanted to know what it felt like. On February 6, 2012, a judge sentenced her to life behind bars for the homicide, with an additional 30 years for armed criminal action. Number 2. The transphobic teen killers. At around 3 p.m. on February 11, 2023, the body of 16-year-old Brianna Gay was found covered with stab wounds. The tranquil Culcheth Linear Park in Cheshire, England, is a popular spot for locals, but their afternoon stroll turned into a nightmare when they discovered the victim's corpse. Emergency services arrived on the scene shortly after and pronounced her dead on the spot. Brianna has been described as a warm and generous person and a member of the trans community. She made it her life's mission to help as many young trans individuals as she could. The victim was also bullied by her schoolmates simply because of her gender identity, including an incident where she was viciously attacked by a gang of fellow teenagers. She also had a significant presence on TikTok, where her miming and dance videos gained her tens of thousands of followers. Despite her generally cheerful nature, the last video she posted on her TikTok account talked about her being excluded from school. Just 2 days later, 2 other teenagers would end up slashing her body open and leaving her to die in what police later called a transphobic hate crime. Though they would never get the acceptance she deserved during her life, thousands of supporters held vigils across the UK in honor of her memory after her death. Additionally, since her gender was not reflected on her death certificate, over 13,000 signed a petition urging the government to change her gender to female. On February 12th, police apprehended 2 teenagers that were suspected of committing this heinous act. One culprit was reportedly from Warrington, with the other residing in Lee, both of which are towns in the Greater Manchester area. Since the culprits were just 15 at the time of the killing, their names were withheld from the public, but they were still prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. 3 days after the arrest, the killers were charged with homicide, and given the brutality of their actions, the judge denied them bail. They were held at a youth detention center pending their trial, and when they arrived for their pre-trial hearing, one of the culprits pleaded not guilty, with the other refusing to enter a plea. Their trial date was set for November 27, 2023, and according to reports, it will take about 3 weeks to complete. Though the killers are quite young, they took the life of an innocent girl, and that might force the judge to impose a harsh sentence. Number 1. Vicious video call. On November 25, 2022, 16-year-old Joshua Cooper, a resident of Ridge Trailer Park in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, brutally shot a 13-year-old girl, leaving her with a gaping hole in her chest. The victim's wounds were so severe that authorities had to rely on her jewelry to discern her identity. Police have withheld most details due to the victim's age, but they have referred to her as MC and confirmed that she was not a local resident. During the killer's testimony, he revealed he had been in a relationship with the victim in the past, also referring to her as his best friend, and that they had been watching Netflix on the day of the incident. Earlier during the day, Cooper had apparently raided his father's safe, where he found a large caliber gun and ammunition. This seems to suggest that the act was premeditated, though authorities have been tight-lipped about whether or not this was the case. Either way, at some point during their Netflix session, Cooper followed his victim when she went to the bathroom and shot her. The high-caliber bullet blew a hole straight through the back of her neck and chest, even breaking through the wall behind her. After the deed was done, the teen culprit reportedly video-called his friend over Instagram. When she answered his call, assuming they would just have a friendly chat, the killer made a chilling confession. He boldly told his friend that he had killed a girl, and even showed her the victim's mangled corpse. His friend, whose name has not been revealed to the public, stated that the victim's body was completely covered in blood. Cooper then asked her to help him dispose of the corpse, prompting her to cut the call and inform her parents, who then reported the incident to the police. When authorities arrived on the scene, they found the victim's body, noting that the killer had tried his best to mop up gallons of blood that came from her wounds. He had also tried to use it to get rid of the stains. Despite trying to cover his tracks, the killer was apparently unable to move the body, and he was still at home when the police came. He tried to run as soon as he spotted them, but they easily caught up to him and brought him in for questioning. His mother arrived at the station and cut the interrogation short, but not before police were able to get some details from the culprit. While he was being questioned, the killer had trouble forming words. Most of the information he provided came between nervous statements about how his father would kill him for this and how he is going to spend the rest of his life in prison. He also tried to claim the shooting was an accident. Police charged him with criminal homicide and tampering with evidence and took him to the Edison Juvenile Detention Center, where he awaited his preliminary hearing on December 7th. The judge eventually decided to try him as an adult. Based on the latest information, Cooper's lawyers are trying to bring his case back to juvenile court. If he is tried as an adult, it's likely he will spend anywhere from 20 years to life behind bars. Which of these juvenile killers shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Bad Badger.